Hey guys, Travis Gillespie here. We've been looking at probability, and in this section we're looking at compound events, so let's read through this problem. It says if you spin the spinner twice, what is the probability that the spinner will land on either blue or green on the first spin and pink on the second spin? There's a lot of information here and I need to parse it, so let's break it up. Let's go back here. So if you spin the spinner twice, that's what I'll underline that word twice. What is the probability, that's another keyword, that the spinner will land on either blue or green, I'll highlight that, on the first spin. So it looks like on the first spin we're looking to see if we land on blue or green, and is a keyword for compound events, and pink on the second spin. So pink on the second spin. Okay, so this is the key information. It's been highlighted. The next thing I need to do is get a circle up on the screen. So let's just draw a circle here. Perfect. I've got my circle. The next thing I want to do is divide this circle into three sections. And the sections, we're going to pretend that they are evenly divided into three perfect sections. No section is larger or smaller than the other, is what we're pretending, and that they all have an equally likely chance of the spinner landing on it. So this must be a fair spinner. That's what we're saying it is. The next thing I want to do is just make one section blue. So make that section blue. Another section is green. So this section is green, and the last section is pink. So highlight that last one in pink. Okay, so I have my three sections here. The next thing I want to do is start working on solving that problem. So I'm just going to change pen colors, and the first thing I'm going to do is break it up into its separate events, since we have compound events here. And I'm just going to write that word, compound events. These are compound events. So I want to break these events up into their single events. So let's actually look at the individual events. So event 1, I'm going to say it's spin 1, or the first spin. So spin, and I'll call it the first spin. That's our first spin, and I'm just going to underline that information. And I'm going to just change pen colors real quick to write the word "and" in capital letters so that it stands out. And my second spin, I'll put that down next. So second spin. I'm also going to underline that information. Okay, so we've got our information laid out, but before I even write any formula out for the first spin and the second spin and set up that problem, let's just write the general formula that we use for probability. So the probability, I'm just going to write P up here, of an event happening, so the probability of an event, it's equal to the favorable outcomes. I'm just going to put fav on top over the total outcomes on bottom. I'll just write the word total, so total on bottom. Okay, so we'll use this general formula here to be real specific and find out the probability of the first spin and the probability of the second spin. So for the first spin, I'm going to write the probability of what's the event we're looking at. Well, we're looking at the spinner to see if the spinner can land on blue or green. So I'm just going to put a lowercase b for blue, and then I'll just write or a lowercase g for green. Okay, so the probability of landing on blue or green. Well, let's look at our spinner real quick. I see there's one section of blue, there's one section of green. Therefore, I'm going to say that my favorable outcomes here, the value that goes on top, the number of favorable outcomes, has to be 2. The spinner could land on this section, that's one section, or this other section, that's a second section, and they're equally likely to be landed on. Therefore, I'm going to put the value 2 on top over the total value, or the total amount of outcomes of the spinner. Well, there's 1, 2, 3 sections that have equally likely chances of the spinner landing on it. And again, we call that fair. This is a fair spinner. So I'm going to put 3, the total, on bottom. Okay, so 2/3, that's the fraction for the probability of landing on blue or green. Let's go and work on our second spin now. So let's find the probability of landing on the second spin. We're seeing if the spinner what the probability is if the spinner lands on pink. And this time, rather than putting a lowercase p only, I'm actually going to spell that word out because I have a lot of extra room, and I have a big P here. Just remember, big P stands for probability. The information inside of the parentheses represent the event, and in this case, it's the spinner landing on pink. Okay, so the probability of landing on pink, it's equal to our favorable outcomes here. Well, there's only one pink section, so that's one section out of 3 sections, a total of 3. So I'm going to put 1 on top, 3 on bottom. So 1/3, it's the probability of landing on pink. Okay, so now we have the probability of our single events. the probability for our first spin and the probability of our second spin. But I've got to combine these events because they are compound events, and I'm going to do it using this keyword and. And in mathematics is a keyword for multiplication. So I'm going to multiply this probability with this probability. So let's just scroll down and get some extra room on the screen. Alright, now let's go ahead and take 2/3. I'm going to rewrite it below. So I have 2 over 3 times 1/3 here. So now let's write 1/3. When we multiply with fractions, all you have to do is multiply straight through across the top, multiply straight through across the bottom. So our new answer is 2 times 1 gives us a value of 2. 3 times 3 gives us a value of 9. So the probability of both events happening, of the first spin landing on blue or green and the second event landing on pink, it's 2 over 9. Cool stuff, guys. I'll see you in another video.